A power outage you are
Yes,
reporting today.
a power outage. I had just gotten out of the shower at like 8:15, and I was going to dry my hair and do a few other things, and then I was trying to figure out how to tether my phone to my laptop, and then I realized that because the power was out, the internet was out as well too. So lots of fun. But anyway, I figured it out,
Hmm.
and I'm not even
Hmm.
crying. It's amazing. All of my friends will tell you that before, when things would go bad, that I just sort of like, I don't know what to do. But it's new me, it's new calm era.
Well, I will gladly laugh at you this morning because of that.
Please.
That's very funny that you would. Anyway, uh,
But I know I couldn't cry this morning either because I'd have puppy eyes and a snotty
that's.
nose.
I
Nobody
know. I
wants
know.
that.
I'm being very discourteous.
Well,
Um, a longtime friend of ours is on with us
yeah,
today, Leslie Roberts.
yes. And we've known Leslie for a long time. He is a third generation Rob. His dad was Bill Roberts, who worked, and then Leslie and his daughter, and I think there's one more before that, grandfather. I don't have
Hmm.
my notes right now, but I can't find my regular glasses. So it's
Your
one of those.
voluminous. Oh, I've got your voluminous yellow markered
Yay, good. But
joke.
anyway,
Not joke, but thing. Yeah. Hmm.
Leslie, I worked with Leslie at CTV when I was working there, and I worked with him at CJAD. He also did a travel. He's done so much, He
Oh,
is,
it's
yeah.
amazing. Yep. Yep.
And now he is the city councillor for Ville Marie.
Peter-McGill.
Yep,
That's
excellent. Good.
that's quite the turnaround, I
Well,
should say. Is
I think it's great because someone who works in news and has covered the sort of our city. I remember once I had a professor who said Montreal is somewhere between the verge of catastrophe and learning, which I thought was rather, but it's true. I love the city. I really, really do.
hmm.
But I thought it was very brave of Leslie to run because, of course, a lot of people don't understand that even though you're an elected official, you inherit the stuff that came before you, which I'm sure
Yeah.
is tons of fun.
Well,
But
before we
I'm
get to all of that, let's bring him in
Let us do that.
and let me just make sure I've got my P's and Q's together here. Yeah, I used to call him Lester back in the day, but here he is after all these years, a city councilor. Where do we
Look at
start?
you.
Leslie Roberts with his nice tie. Good morning.
Yeah, it's so great to see you guys. It has
It's
been a
been a
few.
long time, my friend.
It has you. It's a pleasure to talk to you in a new capacity with a long history of old friends, as they say.
Wow. As I was saying to Era, I don't know where to start here. We might as well start from. I mean, there's an august history there in terms of
Yes.
journalism back in your family. Your dad, I knew your dad. I knew your mom back in the day. Your brother, and your grandfather was a journalist as well. Is
And
this?
Yeah.
daughter. And daughter
And
now.
yes, oh my God, I just saw a picture of her as an adult. The last time I saw her, she was 3 feet tall. I'm going
Well,
to
I think
cry. I'm going to
you knew
start
her as
crying.
a you knew her as a baby. More importantly,
Yeah.
not to date you, but she's 40
Yeah.
now. Even that's
Oh, my.
Oh
All right.
God.
Okay.
Botox.
It's
Sorry.
yeah.
just the
Edward,
beginning, just the beginning of what we're going to be going through this morning. I never asked you this, Leslie, but were you inspired by your father and your grandfather to get into reporting? Because you were a CKGM, I think, when knew you back in the day, weren't you? At the beginning?
yeah, yeah. I always joke that it was a family business, and if the media were to close tomorrow, we'd all be out of work. So I have to answer your question. Absolutely. I mean, how could it not, right? My
Yeah.
mom worked for a federal MP, Rod Blaker from the Lakeshore, who was the assistant deputy speaker, and he was quite a character. So we had, political talk around the dinner table, and then of course we had the media talk. It was a different media at the time, of course, as we know, news businesses evolved. We won't comment whether for the better or for the worse, but back then it was literally conversation about facts, polarization. Oh, wait a minute, we're here again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was inspired to answer your question.
Wow, because I remember your father. I mean, your father was just laser focused. He didn't cotton to any nonsense. He cut straight to the quick when it came time to discuss things and to express his views and all of that. So, wow. Now we were just going through your bio here, and how many media stops have you made now? I lost count here in Era's voluminous notes.
Yeah, quite a few.
Toronto, New York.
Yeah, Montreal, Toronto, New York. I was in LA, freelancing, so not really full time, and I ended in Ottawa.
Do you miss it?
I did, but not anymore because I feel I'm still connected to it, being a city councillor, but in a different capacity. Obviously, the other side of the microphone, as it were. So I would say I think it's in our DNA, all of us who are in this business, to hang on to it for our lifetime, however you play it out.
Well, I've often thought that there is a link between people who want to run for office. A lot of people, there's a lot of negative publicity about politicians, and there always has been, dating back to the Roman and the Egyptian times, and graffiti is still there. But I find it fascinating that you decided to run for politics because as a reporter, as a host, as a journalist, we are curious by nature. We're also critical thinkers. We want to get to the bottom of things. So to me, taking a step as a journalist into politics makes sense because by your very nature, you want to see why things happen. And I have to say that, the last 8 years has been interesting. And what is it like to step into an office where maybe not all of the people were happy all the time with the city government, and now to try with the new mayor and you and all sorts of new city councillors to change that?
I'd start by saying the bar was pretty low. Every government has an expiry date, and clearly the previous administration had hit that. It happens federally and provincially as well. So it's exciting because every government also has a honeymoon period. And as you put the picture of Soraya and myself up there, I can tell you just maybe 3 or 4 days before that picture was taken, I actually said no to running. I was approached by several people within the party, some you would know, some you wouldn't know, and asked me to run, and I said no, I don't see myself in that capacity. And so Soraya and I went for coffee, and I did what journalists do. I had nothing to lose because I wasn't going to run. So I started literally quizzing her as a journalist, throwing the tough questions at her. As you said, Era, it's been a tough 8 years. How are you going to turn it around? What are your plans? Specifically, don't speak in large topics with themes. Give me specifics. And she did. But what really got me was when she said, more importantly, this city, the foundation of the city was built by a large English community. We can't forget that. I want a Anglophone who knows the city sitting around the table when decisions are made. So that's what the difference between, I would say, what I was doing, where I would report and ask questions based on the decisions made, to now being at the table and being able to put in my 2 cents, sometimes 3 cents, but I would speak up and taken with respect, with authority, given the fact that, this, as you know, when you cover a city as long as we have, you know a thing or two about how it runs, and more importantly, what the people think. And to be approached on the municipal level, to be able to actually make a difference outside my door, that's why I said yes. I don't think provincially it would have had the same satisfaction, or federally. So I know all about garbage and potholes now. Like, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them at me.
We're going to get to those. But okay. She worked in communications for a while too, so she knows her stuff in that respect too, right?
Yeah, we have been around a lot of politicians over the years, whether you do it officially or because of the nature of what we do, having a beer at a bar. And I can tell you that she is the real deal in terms of not only communications, Yvan, but she also, I mean, she comes from the federal scene, obviously. She was a cabinet minister. She went from coast to coast. She knows how the big machine works. But her roots are in the community, in Saint Michel, where she grew up, where as a teenager, she saw a quarry and she looked around as a kid and said, ultimately, there's not enough green space or a park here. And she successfully was able to change this quarry into a park.
Wow.
And that's where she first got noticed as a teenager, and the rest is history. And so to see that action that she has done and her passion for this country, and her story is remarkable. 8 years old, arrives from Chile, doesn't speak English or French. She's a Bill 101 baby. She is now as Montrealer as it gets.
Well, I know Era has some bones to pick. Do you want to get into those now, Era, or what?
I've read her emails.
It's more like I have a couple of questions.
I've read her emails.
No, but in life, I always say life is a race between learning and disaster, and you're constantly taking that wave. And I always, for you coming in and our new mayor, you inherit a lot of things that we're not taken care of. For example, I live on a street in Rosemont, and in the 23 years I've lived here, I've never actually been paved, like down to the bone, and it looks a little bit like Hanoi. It's just, and they do come along with that machine, the sort of Dr. Seuss machine that puts down the asphalt and stuff like that. So, and I know that's all over the city. And, I know last week there was a discussion on talk radio about, should we just put gravel down everywhere? It's like, And so that's my first question. How is our new government going to address this? Because it's not only the potholes on the street, but also on the sidewalk as well, which is a danger for all ages.
And those are very important questions, and I get them all the time, whether it's in your neighborhood or my neighborhood. I represent downtown, and I'll give you the example of already the mindset change. The famous chantier, the construction along St. Catherine Street. It's almost like a lifetime ago when we used to be able to walk down St. Catherine and not worry about fences or detours. The plan had to get done. We had literally, as generations of administrations, had just covered everything that was there. It was decided by the previous administration to go back to the very bottom. And if you go in there, I describe it as a bowl of spaghetti. There are so many wires and so many pipes. But more importantly, it goes all the way down when they had the very first infrastructure, if you like, where it's wood down there. So they're cleaning everything out, and they're doing almost like a root canal, I guess, would be the equivalent if you were going to a dentist. And so that's going to take a long time. The original plan was 2030, and this is where I'm getting to the answer to your question. Through, I would say, common sense, we asked the question, why is this construction site being worked on, and down the block, this one is sitting here as what they call a phantom site because nobody's working on it? Well, the answer is because they're all working here. And we said, well, why don't we get more crews and get them both working at the same time? And the city services said to us, well, let us ask, because the subcontractor has to be brought in. Long story short, the subcontractor said, absolutely, I can get more crews to work on this. And the question goes, well, how much more is it going to cost me? Well, our budget goes till 2030. What we've done in the 2030 budget is just taken the money earlier so that we can spend the same amount of money at this point. We never know. But not only spend the same amount of money, but get it done a year faster because we have crews working on both. So we've just moved the money to spend it sooner. That was projected in our capital spending. And it's basically common sense like that, where we're applying this in every issue, every problem, every, dare I say, pothole that comes before us. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a thankless job, Leslie, and early days, and this is perhaps an unfair question, but I'll ask you anyway. Are you looking ahead thinking, okay, I can do this, or are you thinking, my God, I could have been retired now, having a mint julep in Fiji?
I can actually have a mint julep on Peel Street anytime I want.
Okay.
It's my district. But to answer your question, as a joking aside here, I was retired 4 years. I left when the pandemic hit, and just after it started, and I did the travel. And going back to your very first question, do I miss it? Clearly, I did miss involvement. So I would say I committed to 4 years. I knew that was the commitment. I'm going to give it my all, and I have been. The honeymoon period continues. Ask me that question when that honeymoon period ends. But right now, I am so thrilled to be able to deal with a pothole, but also be able to shape what the city is going to look like. I'm also president of the CCU, which is the permits committee. Every developer comes before our committee, and we help shape what the future of Montreal is going to look like. And I sit there with a very specialized panel of urban planners and architects, and it is an honor for me. And the other thing is, I'm learning. You know, in your 60s, to be able to learn a whole new career, it's pretty thrilling.
And commission de la sécurité publique aussi.
Oui. C'est
wow,
compliqué un peu.
That's a whole nother big sandwich.
Well, we had the police chief come before us a couple of weeks ago, and the issue, to keep on the theme of compliqué, was racism and discrimination within the SPVM, within the force itself. What are they going to do? What is their plan 2026 to 2030? And myself and the fellow commissioners on the public commission listened to what they had to say. We asked our questions, and now we have to do a report that we will hand over to the executive committee and say, are we satisfied with the plan of action that the SPVM is doing? So this is also a very important step in accountability. And that's why I'm happy also to be part of it, because the city is evolving. The city, no matter how many solutions we find, there are more problems to face.
Et puis un anglophone qui parle français aussi, là.
Oui, ça c'est compliqué aussi parce que
il faut faire le point, là, parce que c'est pas juste un anglo qui rentre là, c'est un anglophone qui a appris le français, qui parle le français couramment aussi, là. Oui.
Un peu gêné après 15 ans à Toronto, oui.
Quand même,
mais
oui, mais...
I have to get rid of my shyness, et I'm all in. Et avec mon accent anglophone Montréal,
quand
je suis fier maintenant, mais you know what? I have to tell you, the respect there's no linguistic issues here. We go back and forth. Majority of the time, we speak French, of course. It's not an issue.
Well, as a
Excellent.
reporter, I found that sometimes, I'd be going out to do a story, and I naturally assumed that the person I was interviewing was French. So you have two Anglophones that are speaking French to each other, and then, we crack up because it's like, but I think that's the cool thing about Montreal. Now, as you know, like your daughter, I've been doing weather for a long time, and climate change has really affected Montreal a lot, from freezing rain to, the states of our street. And one of the things that really concerns me as well, too, is after we had that it was not a big ice storm, but in 2023, oh, that's a nice picture. We had...
I still can't get over this one. She's such an attractive and talented person too. My God, it's been a long time. Anyway, that's Lauren. That's your daughter.
Yes.
More importantly, sorry, Aaron, to interrupt, but I got to do this. As a father, you want someone who is a good person. She is the best. And you guys both know her mother. She was also in the business behind the scenes. Her mom did the heavy lifting. Incredible human being we have created together. Anyway, back to your question.
Well, Amy, of course, is doing weather now. And weather in Montreal, you notice it when you work in weather. Every year you get the reports because you're working very closely with Environment Canada. And of course, there's been so many changes. And one of the things I noticed, well, we've had more and more freezing rain, which is definitely a problem. And I think what I'd like to ask is, last year we have a lot of trees in our street that in 2023 came down, and they came in. But I have called Hydro and the city because there's still a lot of trees that are over wires. And I'm wondering, how do you coordinate with that? Because that's a big problem. Even if we get a day and 20 millimeters of accretion. So how do you work as a city hall working with Hydro-Quebec and also the city crews who are taking care of those trees. How do we take care of that in terms of cutting branches before it happens and causes a lot of problems? A couple years ago, you remember in Parkshire Ward, they had a downburst, literally cut everything in half. So how is the city working with the weather?
That's a tough one. I mean, because hydro can't even keep up. So
yeah.
Well, coincidentally, I'm also on the Environment Committee. Now, that Environment Committee, Commission rather. So the Commission is not, and it's not just a Montreal thing. It's a Montreal metropolitan thing. So I work with the Mayor of Boquer, and we go around all over the province talking about issues like that. We also talk about toxic dumping and so on. But specifically, I would say this, back to the very core group. 311, when you see it as a citizen, the same way last week Soraya said, hey guys, you want a cleaner city? We need this to be a partnership. Our workers will pick up the garbage, but we want you to pick up the garbage too. Pride of ownership. So I would say the same thing, Era. When you see those branches, call 311.
I have.
It is, no doubt. I would also.
It's her again.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about it is that they do know the most engaged citizens, which I love. First of all, we will have engaged citizens who have made themselves more than engaged and keep us on our toes. But to answer your question, it is also an expectation of the employee to notice this. Now, here's where the system was breaking down, and we're trying to change it. Is when person A, whether it's a citizen or employee, reports it back, and it now goes into the file. What happens next? Does it get passed on? More times than not, it just sits there until another complaint, or when the branch falls, the job has to get done. We have launched a task force that is going to implement AI that will flag these inefficiencies. And we've got the pilot project already rolling out here in Ville-Marie. And after a year, we will assess it and say, hey, did we prevent, fewer branches from breaking off in a storm? Then, hey, it's a success. Check. How can we take that AI and move it into a home small? So it's constantly evolving, but human error is always going to be there. Mm-hmm. The AI will hopefully double check that. Not that the AI will ever run the city, but it will double check and allow us to catch it, hopefully, when the report goes unnoticed or isn't passed on.
Interesting. Also, I noticed this in Era's voluminous notes.
Love it.
Monsieur Roberts is an advocate for the long-discussed Cavendish extension.
Ooh.
I did a report on that about 852 years ago on Cavendish Boulevard at the Cavendish Mall. And they looked at me and they said, you're a nice, polite young man. Eat your coleslaw, stop making trouble, and get out. So nobody wants this, but you're an advocate of this. Have attitudes changed about the Cavendish extension?
First, I'll say that was a sign from the universe. You should have run for office, but a missed opportunity. But number two, I would say the administration is an advocate. It's not just me. And we look to the future where you see the Hippodrome development. You see that area where there's going to be even more density. And Jean Talon and Decarie is already a nightmare. So the question is, where's the money going to come from? So we've got, I guess we've cast a wide net to see how we can fund it, not only through taxpayers' dollars municipally. How much money can we get from Ottawa? How much money can we get from Quebec City? That being said, the study is being done soon. I don't think it's been launched now officially. I'd hate to say it isn't, but under the watchful eye of Saint-Laurent Mayor Helen D'Souza, who's a big advocate as well, and who's responsible, by the way, for mobility in the city on the executive committee, that we're looking at what is the best solution. Is it an overpass? Is it whatever? So we've moved it forward. The question is, when is it going to get done? I don't have the answer. Once we see the feasibility study and a decision on how Cavendish will be extended, that's when we'll have more answers.
Wow, so much stuff. No, well, that's fine. I can just imagine all the various threads you have to pull together in one day. So it's quite something. Anyway.
Well, before we get to the slideshow,
we have a photo album to go through here.
Yes, we do. But I do want to say, and there's something you said, and you and I, Leslie, actually talked about this before the election. I was on him, poor guy, even before he was running. But one of the things that I know is important to you and is important to me is, being a citizen. Yes, of course, we have the 311, and citizens will complain and complain they do. But what I would like to say there has to be a way. There has to be more of a partnership because I do a lot of volunteering and I work on a variety of things. As I say, you don't have a right to complain unless you actually have some solutions. So I know you're very much in touch with many different groups that you've worked with over the years. So I'm looking forward to seeing the way the city is going to encourage citizens to be more active, because I always say it's not just the election that counts, it's the ability of the councillor and the city government to get people to say, hey, I have these ideas, and we work together as opposed to one side that says, complain.
Well, let me begin by saying we have to get people out to vote in the first municipal.
Yeah.
We had the lowest turnout, close to the lowest turnout, if I'm not wrong, in the last election. And in my district, which is Peter-McGill, so Atwater to University, Camellia Hood down to St. Antoine, basically, core group, the lowest of all districts. And it's, so how do we engage people? We do have very engaged citizens who do the heavy lifting for a lot of citizens. And here's the issue that I think what it comes down to. Let me give you an example. Social housing, affordable housing, big issue on the mayor's priority list. I work very closely with community groups here in Peter-McGill, and they want the same thing we want. But the question is, how do we get it? And that's where the difference comes in. They're tearing down the Women's Y, famous building, René Levesque. The building is in such disrepair, it would cost millions and millions and millions of money to first bring it down, clean the soil, and then start over. That money, these groups want that building saved and changed into social and affordable housing. But if we were to spend the kind of money that it would take, we wouldn't stretch the dollar. There'd be fewer places built if we made that decision accordingly. So I keep saying to them, we have the same goal, but the road to get there is going to be a little different. And we're only 5 months in. And I do work closely with both of them. But to get back to your biggest question is, how do we engage more citizens? Maybe you can tell me. We call public meetings. We started town halls. The mayor is meeting with the various boroughs, and in the districts. We have one in Peter-McGill coming up in June, by the way, where the mayor and Claude Pinal, the executive committee president, will come to my district, and we'll open up the doors for everyone to come and meet and ask questions. And that's engagement. That's what we're doing. I mean, it's grassroots stuff. So before we ask how do we work closer with the city, let's first get people wanting to come and work with the citizens. Yeah. That's where we're.
I agree.
Okay, let's look at some photographs here. This one, Lester.
My.
Yeah, this is a full circle moment, guys. This is the election night in Montreal. My grandfather on the left, my father in the middle. My grandfather was an editorialist at CJD for many, many years. Former journalist, war correspondent. My dad was morning man at this particular moment. And on the right is Sidney Margulies, the legend that is Sidney Margulies. And this happened, obviously, this is covering a municipal election when we had a new mayor elected, and it kind of very significantly is a full circle moment for my family. That's why I put it in there.
Wow. And this is a young Leslie Roberts with Robert Bourassa.
Wow.
We don't get that kind of access to politicians anymore. This was at an event where I asked his handler, "Can I speak to the premier?" And they said absolutely, and they gave me a one-on-one. I think it was 1983, 1984, so I was a younging, as you can see. But he was an incredible communicator, a young Anglophone speaking to a Francophone premier who was one of the creators of Bill 22, and we had an incredible conversation, and that was one night I'll always remember, that he took the time to talk to me.
I got to interview him as well near the end of his career, near the end of his life, actually, and he was always quite forthcoming. I think there might be a construction site outside the councillor's home there or something.
You wanted progress. We got progress happening. I just closed the window. Keep going. Okay.
This is. I think I recognize these people here. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy on the left told me that he did not want to be prime minister, that he didn't want to run for the leadership, and then things. Yeah, clearly wasn't honest with me. This was right when Justin won in Papineau, and I remember I also interviewed Margaret. It was for a news magazine show that I worked at in Toronto, and we did a full length piece where it was basically the prodigal son. And will he run for prime minister? And Margaret said she didn't want him to because of what her family had been through, and obviously her husband. And then anyway, that to me was kind of a great interview because I had never met him, other than of course he sort of launched on the scene at his father's funeral, and so for me it was, and being an Anglo from Montreal, where it's kind of like the royal family, if you like. In fact, I have a portrait of his father on my wall from Bob Hendricks is a Montreal artist because of the significance. And he asked me, what famous Canadian do you want me to paint? It was my birthday, and he painted Pierre Trudeau for me.
Oh my!
So that family, whether you like them or not, they his father in particular shaped the country that we had going into the 2015 election.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's another personnage.
Yeah. This was an opportunity when I was anchoring in Toronto. I did a lot of hosting and interviewing, and this was an event where Clinton came to Toronto, and they asked me to moderate and ask questions. The most nerve-wracking night of my life, or of my career anyway, and because of the significance, I don't think it was long after he left office. I'm trying to think back now, it was so many years ago, and fortunately I made it through. But he was the kindest person to talk to. He locked eyes, and I've heard women tell me this all the time. His greater than life personality when you're one-on-one with him. But I asked him a question because he had a whole bunch of bands around, almost like strings and around his wrist. And I said to him, why are you wearing all these? And this was in the middle of a photo meeting, and he stopped and he told me about this one wristband that he had been given by a young man in South Africa, and the conversation went on for 10 minutes as he was describing. And of course, the press people and everybody else was angry that I had asked that question. But you could see that this man actually cared, because he said, I promised whenever I was asked about this that I would give an answer, and he did. So that was kind of a moment of insight into who he is as a human being, not necessarily as a politician, but as a human being.
Wow. And here's a young human being.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you guys, you remember those days?
Oh, I sat in for you in 1992 with, and I'm flashing on our buddy Malcolm Charlton, the late Malcolm, who was director in those days. And I sat in on that show. That was your morning show on CFCF back in the day.
When I started at CFCF, I was in the radio, and then I moved over to TV in 1985, and I was the medical reporter. And a man who you all know, a legend we all love, Don McGowan, saw something in this 23-year-old kid. And he said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, everything. And he within a couple of years, the previous host had moved on. And he allowed me to do Montreal AM, and he also gave me travel. And I did that for a few years as well. So I honestly, when people ask who are the people who changed your course of your life career wise, Don McGowan was a mentor. He would take me aside. Oh, okay. I just love this picture because this is Celine Dion's first live English interview. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's people to this day when people say who are some of the people you love to interview, she was just so genuine, and she was so a delight. As the show was coming on, we were playing Beauty and the Beast, the song she sings with Peebo Bryson. So it's the intro's rolling, and then we got the video. She's singing live in studio across the desk from me. And then when Peebo's line comes in. She's like, now you sing Peebo's line. And it was like, I missed my duet with Celine, because of course I didn't. But through the years, I had a chance, as we all did, to cross paths with her as a reporter, as a host. And I would always meet Rene, and he'd say to me, remember, we owe it all to you in English because you were our first interview. He never forgot that. And he was
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but he was so kind and thankful for the opportunity. That, I mean, to me, she was already huge in French, and this was her move over to the English side. I guess it was Where Does My Heart Beat Now? It had just been released when this happened.
Where does my heart beat now?
Yeah. Sing it.
And some of us remember 1998.
Oh, and
Speaking
with
of
Bill
mentors,
Hoagland. Yeah.
Bill Hoagland was a gem. This is a man who was the voice of Montreal, and he would, no matter how much experience you had, no matter what you did to contribute to his newscast, he treated you as an equal. This was the ice storm, and he literally let me anchor the ice storm coverage from the street on what was the biggest story probably of that decade. And he is an amazing individual, but as a news anchor, they don't make him like that anymore. In fact, I don't think they made them like that after while he was there, because I aspired to be a Bill Hoagland. We had teleprompters. We have teleprompters today. They didn't have teleprompters in Bill Hoagland's time. He would literally memorize the lead between every story. I mean, it's an art, and he was the greatest artist at the time.
It started in the mailroom.
Right? That doesn't happen anymore either.
No.
Yeah.
And also one of the kindest people. He used to, when I was doing weather with him, he used to drive me home from work before he went back to Vermont. And I never forgot that.
Right?
Such a down-to-earth human being, and I'll always appreciate that. Such a kind man.
Yeah, kindness personified. Absolutely.
Wow, good. And this is, was this Toronto? Yes?
No, this is Ottawa, my last job.
Oh, Ottawa. Okay.
This is CTV Morning Live. This was I had been at CJD, and I did a couple of years, and I actually left CJD, and CJOH in Ottawa, CTV Ottawa, called me and said, we'd love for you to come and I missed television. I was doing radio at the time, and I love morning shows. And this is news and a morning show. So I was able to interview, and I was also able to anchor. And this went the beginning of the pandemic. So I interviewed premiers, I interviewed politicians, ministers. It was tough though, because during, as you know, the pandemic, everybody went through tough times. But for a news anchor, and Annette Gerner, who was one of my favorite co-anchors, amazing human being, but an amazing anchor also. We just to report the number of deaths every day, just to report the situation of what the country was facing, and then go home alone. We were lucky we were able to go to studio. As remember, most of us had to stay at home. But I'll always remember that we became closer because there were 6 of us, I think, running this whole show. One producer. I mean, they had skeleton staff because the rules were you got to be 6 feet apart. I mean, normally we sit right in the middle, but
well, that's right. I thought you looked rather far apart there. Yeah. My goodness, it didn't dawn on me.
And we had a mask under the desk that if we were to step up, we had to put the mask on. I said this yesterday when I was going for a walk with a friend. I said, do you remember those years? I seem to have blocked them out. And I don't know if that's just my brain protecting me.
You're not the only one. Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Man. And we're out of order here, but this is Global too. You worked at Global.
I did for 15 years at Toronto. I was, as you know, I went from CTV Montreal or CFCF at the time, and I crossed over to Global because I was able to be the news director at Global in Montreal. And my whole dream was to help create, and it was the early days of Global Montreal, to create something new. And because not that I had been in the business a long time at that point, but I was ready for a challenge other than reporting and reading an anchor, a teleprompter. And Pat O'Hara, who was the general manager, was kind enough to say, you've got the morning show and you got the 5:30. And within a year, Toronto called me and they said, come. And I was like, no. And then Peter Kent, another brilliant
Oh, yes.
He called me because he was the anchor of Global National at the time. He said, "Do you realize that what this opportunity is? They don't bring people from outside of Toronto, who people don't know ever. You can't say no." So I actually had it in my contract that if I didn't like it in a year, I could come back to Montreal. But I stayed 15.
Wow.
Wow.
Don't hold that against me. Don't hold that against
No,
me.
it's,
Toronto, 15 years.
And you said as on to something new, and that brings us back to full circle again to your current duties. And I know you're quite busy. I appreciate you making time for us this morning, Leslie.
Guys, it's great to catch up. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to see that you guys are still contributing in
Still talking.
Long form way. I think that's what we need right now. And I'm as you know, I'm not only friends for years, but I'm big fans of both of you. Yvan, your sense of humor is legendary. I would watch the 11 o'clock, and you would either say something very subtle or very blatant, and it was like, that was your brand, that was your genius, and
we had fun. Well, you and I had fun back in the day, because I'm sure you agree with me. And as you mentioned, you talked about Robert Bourassa and about how it was a bit less formal, a bit more easy to move around, and again, people's attention was perhaps a bit more focused on things than it is now. So it was fun. But my goodness. Continue. Please go ahead, please.
What I was going to say, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking how interesting it is, because I started my radio career with Yvan at CFGO in Ottawa.
Oh, that's right. You worked at CFRA, didn't you, Les?
CFGO and CFRA, and then also did weather at CJOH, and worked on You Can't Do That on Television on CJOH. And then came to Montreal, and Yvan worked with me at CFGO and CFRA, and then I went to I worked at CFQR, which was in the same building on Ogilvy, and CTV, and then you and I worked together there, and then I went to work with Yvan at CFRA. So it's really one of the best things. I don't really know if it's like that much now, but Montreal is a very interesting Anglophone broadcast community, because you don't get the big sort of like, the loyalty thing. One of the things when I was working at other stations in other cities is like, well, you don't share stories with them. And I do a lot of charity work, but literally I've worked with every single person in the city, and Global will cover a story that CTV will cover, and I find that the Anglophone media community is less competitive, and really it's a lovely link, and to be able to share stories and to be able to see people that I've worked with on one station and another station, and it ain't a problem.
Yeah, well, I think it's because we're all in this together. The business is changing. The survival has to work, and we have to work together to make sure that we don't see stations close or skeleton staffs further attacked.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Les, Mazel Tov, my friend, and break a leg. We're proud of you.
Yes,
Appreciate
we are.
It, guys. And Era, don't hesitate to reach out about trees or whatever. I do have friends in Rosemont who I work with who may be able to help you.
Oh, excellent. And as you know, my answer is, of course I will.
Yeah, of course.
I'm on a list at City Hall.
It's a good list. Great.
Get to work. There's a committee waiting for you somewhere.
There is indeed. Actually, I'm going to swear in new citizens right now.
You're swearing in new citizens. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Part of the job as well. I'm looking forward to first time. I'm looking forward to it.
Good for you. That's tremendous. Leslie, thank you.
Folks, goodbye. Thank you.